Hello guys, hello smart people. I know that you might think that the English language is probably the most illogical language in terms of the accordance between pronunciation and spelling, but there are actually a couple of rules that you can have a look at. And today's topic is going to be one of the rules which has almost no exceptions if we talk about verbs, which is going to be how we pronounce the ed ending of past or past participle forms of the regular verbs that you might have already heard of. We have our beautiful background here, and we've got a whole bunch of consonants in front of us, and I've already put them into two categories. I'll try to explain why, but we're going to work with the pink and then later on the blue ones as well. So let's just dive into that, and I'll try to explain it in a more practical way. So we've got a list of different verbs ending in certain sound: kiss, book, watch, mash, and wrap. If you don't know these words, first check them. If you do, then just listen and have a look at things that these 5 verbs have in common. So if I think of the sounds s, ch, sh, and p, what's common in them? If you touch your throat, then you might think that there's no vibration when you pronounce the end of these verbs, right? If you say kiss, or you say book, then your throat is vibrating until it gets to the last part, which is going to be the last sound of a sentence. So we all know how we spell these. That's another question, how the ed form is differently spelled in the English language. We're going to try to concentrate on pronunciation today. But what's going to happen is that the ending, so ed, will try to assimilate to the way how you pronounce the end of the verbs. So that means that, for example, the verb kiss will be kissed in the past. So it's not kissed or kissed or something like that, because I usually hear that from students. It's going to be pronounced kissed, kissed. So it's a T sound. And again, the same way is going to work with booked, and then watched, mashed, and wrapped as well. So it's going to be really important to get used to pronouncing these sounds the way they are pronounced. Otherwise, we can get misunderstood sometimes as well. So we've got kiss becomes kissed, and then book becomes booked and not booged, for example. Okay? Now, this is the first part. So the way you can distinguish between the two big groups of consonants is whether they have a vibration or not. If they do vibrate in your throat, then that's not going to be this. We're going to look into that right now. Okay, so let's jump back to our consonant table, and you'll see these different sounds highlighted in light blue. Now, why are they light blue? Because they will have vibration. So once you pronounce these words, you can already see automatically what the ed forms are, because we all know what we talk about when we talk about past. So they all have an ed form. The question is how we pronounce them. Now again, if you try to touch your throat and you pronounce drag, survive, scroll, listen, and play, they all vibrate, right? So if you check the very last letter or sound and how you pronounce it, it's going to be really important for us to know that they are vibrated, because if they are vibrated, they will have a d ending to pronounce. So the ed, spelled ed, will be pronounced as a d. In this case, drag, dragged. Don't think about the double G or anything like that. That's just spelling. We talk about pronunciation. And then we've got survived, we've got scrolled, and listened, and played, right? That's probably easier because you normally think that the ed form should be pronounced like a d, right? So always be careful, because we have these two great categories. We have the words, the sounds on the left and the sounds on the right, and as we pronounce a d sound at the end of verbs ending in the sounds on the left, they are voiceless sounds because there is no vibration. We'll pronounce a d after the sounds you can see on the right. Alright, so we've got that. But then you might have a question and you say, Chubby, what am I gonna do if I have other sounds? Like, how about ending in vowels? If you have a verb ends in free, glue, die, or occur, they all end in a vowel in British English, the last one. what do we do? Now, have a look at your throat again. Not have a look, but have a touch. And just see whether it vibrates or not. Does it vibrate? Of course it does. So all vowels, consequently, will be voiced, which means that we're going to use a d form after them. I guess it's not such a big difficulty because we've already pronounced them. Most students pronounce them with d. Just remember that whenever you have vowels and you talk about the last sound of any verb, because all vowels are naturally, by definition, voiced, we're going to pronounce them with the d sound in the end. So freed, glued, died, and occurred. Okay, occurred or occurred if you prefer an American accent. Or you can decide which accent you prefer. And then we've got another question. So do you think we have covered all the consonants and all the vowels? Not really, because there is actually one missing on the left and one missing on the right in the dark, well, navy blue circles. And it's going to be the actual sound t and the actual sound d, and they will be a bit more problematic. And usually that's where students get a little intimidated and they pronounce things which are not pronounced the way they are. Decided, intended, greeted, treated, visited, and needed. Now, what did you notice? Did I pronounce the t sound or did I pronounce the d sound at the end of the verb? Actually, neither, right? So the way you pronounce these is going to be, they'll have an id ending, and notice that they're all going to have the same sort of ending. It's not a d sound, it's not a t sound, but the ed spelled version will be pronounced with id. So it's always going to be id. This is to stop, you know, people getting their tongues tied up a little when they pronounce things. So we obviously can't pronounce decided very easily. So we'll pronounce decided or intended, right? And then with this, we've got basically the whole rules for the pronunciation of ed. What you need to think of is the right ending. So what sound does the verb end in? And then accordingly, you need to try to control yourself and try to make sure that you pronounce the right one. So we've got voiceless endings, in which case we just pronounce a t. Remember, there's words like kissed or even the verb packed that we haven't seen before. So any sound you could see on the left will be voiceless. And then voice consonants will be all the rest. So apart from those 7 and the t sound, everything will be pronounced with a d sound. Okay, so think about listened and things like that. And then of course we have these exceptions. We have d and t sounds as well, which because they would block our mouth or our tongue, we pronounce id very simply. So hopefully that's made it a bit more clear. In case you're interested in a couple of practice exercises, then there's a link below with grouping different things and trying to make sure that you know how to pronounce those verbs. And the next step is going to be to try to make sure that you automatize it. And whenever you pronounce kissed, just make sure it's not kissed because it might be a different verb. But it's going to be kissed. So try to concentrate on that, okay? Now, of course, we've got a couple of ed forms. They are not verbs, they are adjectives, and they are not pronounced in the regular way. So all these rules that I explained in this video do not apply for them. If you're interested in what kind of expressions or words we talk about, then just move on to our Instagram account and you can check a couple of them. Just make sure you know it's Smart Speak World and just check my Instagram. So hopefully it was a very helpful video as well. If you have any questions or you want to practice, comment, like, share, or any sort of thing that you can do. And hopefully that will help you to get a bit more familiar with how we pronounce these endings.